On a forgotten road, where shadows cling and silence devours sound, an ancient cross hides secrets too dark to face. When Helena dares to unveil the truth, she realizes some legends breathe and watch. On the edge of a rural road, flanked by spindly, twisted trees whose branches writhe like desperate hands, stands an old wooden cross. The tall, wild grass sways gently, but carries a rustling whisper, like a breath caught between the living and the dead. The cross itself has no plaque, no offering of flowers, only rough wood, blackened and warped by long years of rain and mold. The grain looks like veins, throbbing faintly in the moonlight that barely penetrates the thick, suffocating canopy overhead. Locals say it marks the place where something terrible happened, though no two stories match. Some speak of a vengeful farmer murdered under a blood-red sky. Others tell of a grieving woman who flung herself from the nearby cliff, clutching only the memory of her lost child. And yet others whisper, with voices dropping to trembling hushes, that on moonless nights, when darkness leaks like ink across the land, a figure kneels before the cross, weeping, then lifting a face that holds no eyes, staring into emptiness. Helena, an investigative journalist with a cold curiosity dug deep from years chasing Brazilian folklore, arrived in this village seeking respite at her parents' house. But the cross pulled at her, a phantom thread she couldn't sever. When the tale reached her ears, she felt the itch, not to rest, but to write, to dig beneath the soil and stone-clad myths. Her father, grounded in old superstitions, warned with a low voice that trembled like the flutter of dead leaves. "Don't go at night, girl," he said, eyes fixed on the weathered floorboards as if the walls themselves might overhear. "There are things you don't put in the paper." But night was exactly when Helena chose to go. With the moon swallowed whole by clouds, she waited until the village's last light faded, until the air grew thick, pressing cold and silent against her skin. The road stretched out like a narrowing throat, flanked by shadows that seemed to pulse in time with her heartbeat. Each step she took absorbed sound, the croak of frogs, the crack of twigs underfoot. Even her own breath felt devoured by the darkness. An oppressive chill pulled at her neck as a distant, sour breeze carried the heavy scent of decay. Damp earth, rotting leaves, and something else, metallic and sharp. When she reached the clearing, the cross stood still, rigid and watchful. Under the asphyxiating darkness, it seemed darker than mere wood, something alive in its blackness, swallowing shards of pale starlight, pulling the shadows toward itself in hungry fingers. Kneeling to take pictures, Helena's fingers brushed the surface of the cross. It was cold, rough, yet unnervingly smooth in places, as if the wood had been carved not by time but by deliberate hands. Her gaze caught carved lines. At first cracks, but then she saw the truth. They were symbols, deeply etched in a sharp, cruel precision that pricked the air with unease. They curled and twisted like serpents, spelling words that slithered beyond understanding. Her camera's recorder picked up an eerie whisper just as she focused. On playback, a murmur echoed, a low voice chanting words shaped by an ancient tongue, words heavier than the night itself. She spun around, eyes sweeping the cold, empty forest. No one stirred. The forest seemed to hold its breath with her. Then she saw it, a figure, kneeling exactly as the legend had said, its back turned toward her. The clothes were ragged, hanging on the emaciated frame like torn veils drifting on a forgotten wind. A crack of dry leaves sounded underfoot as Helena stepped back, heart hammering. The figure ceased its murmuring and slowly turned its head with a movement that was at once fluid and unnatural. The pale face emerged, translucent as fragile porcelain, the skin nearly shimmering with an otherworldly glaze. The eyes, or rather, the hollow pits where eyes should have been, yawned like bottomless voids, swallowing the faint, trembling light. A sharp breath escaped the creature's mouth, chilling the air so fiercely that Helena's lantern flickered, the tiny flame bending and coughing beneath a cold, unseen wind that seemed to creep from the cross itself. Paralyzed for a heartbeat, sensation battered her. The icy grip of fear clawing along her spine, the copper scent of blood rising in her throat, and a swarming buzz that tangled with the silence. Then she ran. The night compressed around her, the trees leaning inward as if to seize her fleeing form, the shadows slithering across roots and stone. Her breath came fast and ragged, the cold air biting at her lungs. Behind her the forest remained still, or did it? Did the whispering stalk her step? She never dared to look back until the safety of home walls enclosed her. The next morning, sunlight weak and distant, Helena reviewed the photos. Panic gripped her throat. In every image, the eerie figure seemed closer, leaning forward, erasing space between itself and the lens, despite her own steady position. The last picture filled the frame impossibly. A pale face, inches from the camera, now smiling with hollow jaw slack and teeth sharp as splintered bone. The smile was a darkest echo of the original carving, the twisted symbol sketched into the cross, now alive. The smile that promised the night was not over, the legends only just beginning. Dare to look beyond the cross and discover what stares back in the shadows. Will you face the legend or become part of it? Step into the darkness if you dare.